Commander Jiwoo Park stood at the window of her ship and watched the stars pass by. They were different from Earth's stars, brighter, more colorful, strange. She had dreamed of this moment her whole life, but now that it was here, fear twisted in her stomach like a cold knife. Humanity had finally done it. After 200 years of trying, they had created ships that could travel faster than light. And 3 months ago, they had received a message from something out there in the dark. Not just radio signals, real words. An invitation. The Galactic Council wanted to meet them. Jiwoo turned away from the window. Behind her, Dr. Taehyun Kim was reviewing documents on his tablet. He looked nervous. His hands shook slightly as he scrolled through pages of alien languages and customs. Taehyun was Earth's best scientist, but he was not a soldier. He did not like violence. He believed in peace and understanding. "Are you ready?" Jiwoo asked him. Taehyun looked up. His eyes were tired. "As ready as I can be. I just hope they're friendly." "They invited us," Jiwoo said. That's a good sign, but she did not feel confident. Earth had sent 3 ships on this mission. Only 3. If the aliens wanted to destroy them, it would be easy. Humanity would never know what happened. 2 days later, they arrived at the Council's homeworld. Jiwoo had seen pictures, but nothing prepared her for the real thing. The planet was covered in massive cities made of crystal and light. Thousands of ships moved through the sky like schools of fish. Some were as small as cars. Others were bigger than mountains. A voice came through the communication system. It spoke perfect English. "Welcome, humans. We are pleased to finally meet you. Please follow the guide ship to the landing area." They landed in a huge building that looked like it was made of frozen water. Inside, hundreds of aliens waited. They came in every shape Jiwoo could imagine. Some had tentacles. Some had wings. Some looked almost human, but with strange colors or extra limbs. All of them stared at the human delegation. A tall creature that looked like it was made of flowing blue liquid approached them. It had no face, but somehow Jiwoo knew it was smiling. "I am High Arbiter Velnar," the creature said. Its voice sounded like waves on a beach. "I lead the Galactic Council. You are most welcome here." Jiwoo bowed slightly. She had practiced this. "Thank you for inviting us. We are honored." Velnar led them through the building to a massive chamber. Thousands of aliens sat in rows, all watching a central stage. "This is our council," Velnar explained. "We represent 1,846 species. Today you become the 1,847th. The ceremony was long and boring. Many aliens gave speeches about peace and cooperation. They talked about sharing knowledge and resources. They spoke about a bright future together. Jiwoo tried to pay attention, but her mind wandered. Something felt wrong. Everyone was too friendly, too eager, like they were trying too hard to seem welcoming. After the ceremony, Velnar took them to a smaller room for a private meeting. This time, several other aliens joined them. One was a massive creature covered in red armor-like skin. It had 4 arms and eyes that glowed like hot coals. "This is General Krathmore of the Voric Dominion," Velnar said. "He commands our largest military force." Krathmore stared at Jiwoo. She felt like an insect under a microscope. "So these are the humans," he said. His voice was deep and rough. "I have read about your species. Very violent, very primitive." Jiwoo kept her face neutral. "We have had our conflicts, but we're here to learn." "Conflicts," Krathmore laughed. It sounded like rocks grinding together. "Your planet has had over 15,000 wars in recorded history. You have killed billions of your own kind. You created weapons that could destroy your entire world. And you call this conflicts?" Taehyun stepped forward. "That's our past. We're trying to be better." Velnar made a gesture that might have been calming. "Please, General. The humans are young. They will learn our ways. Let me explain something important to you, Commander Park." Velnar led them to a wall covered in symbols and text. "This is the Codex of Civilized Warfare. Every species in the Council has agreed to follow these rules. They govern how we resolve disputes." Jiwoo read the translated text. The rules were extensive. No attacks on civilians, no biological weapons, no nuclear weapons, formal declarations before any conflict, designated battle zones only, mandatory pauses for negotiations, protections for wounded soldiers. The list went on and on. "This is how you fight wars?" Jiwoo asked. "This is how civilized species fight wars," Velnar corrected. "War is sometimes necessary, but it does not have to be barbaric. We limit casualties. We protect innocents. We make war as humane as possible. Jiwoo did not know what to say. The idea of rules in war seemed strange to her. On Earth, war meant survival. When nations fought, they fought to win by any means necessary. Rules were things that got broken when the stakes were high enough. That evening, a small alien approached Jiwoo in the human quarters. This one looked fragile, almost like it was made of glass. Its body glowed with soft light. "Commander Park, I am Ambassador Shiara of the Luminari. May I speak with you privately?" They walked to a quiet garden. Shiara seemed nervous. "I wanted to warn you," she said quietly. "Some species here fear humanity. They think you are too dangerous, General Krathmore especially. He believes violent species should not be allowed in the council." "Why are you telling me this?" Jiwoo asked. "Because I read your history, not just the wars. I read about your art, your music, your literature. You are more than your violence. But you must prove that here. The council will test you soon. A small conflict to see how you fight. If you fight like savages, they will never truly accept you." 2 weeks later, the test came. A group of pirates had attacked a council mining station. The council asked humanity to help remove them. It was a small mission. Simple. Earth sent a single ship with Sergeant Bo-Ra Han and her Marine unit. Bo-Ra was a veteran of Earth's corporate wars. She was tough, smart, and did not take orders from people she did not respect. When she received the mission briefing, she laughed. The rules said they had to announce their attack beforehand. They could only fight in designated areas. They had to offer surrender multiple times. "These are the dumbest combat rules I've ever seen," she told her squad. "But orders are orders. We play by their rules this time." The mission succeeded, but barely. Following the codex made everything slower and more dangerous. The pirates knew all the rules and used them. They hid in protected zones. They called for negotiations and then attacked during pauses. Bo-Ra lost 2 soldiers because she had to wait for permission to return fire. When she returned, she was angry. "Those rules almost got us killed," she told Jiwoo. "In a real war, we'd all be dead." Jiwoo filed her report with the council. They seemed pleased. Humanity had followed the codex. They had won without breaking any rules. Velnar personally congratulated them. General Krathmore said nothing, but Jiwoo saw something in his eyes. Not respect, contempt. He thought humans were weak for following rules. That night, Jiwoo could not sleep. She kept thinking about the codex, about rules in war, about what would happen if humanity ever had to fight a real battle out here. Would they follow the rules? Could they afford to? 3 months later, news arrived that changed everything. 3 human colony ships had been destroyed, 2,000 people dead. The ships had been in deep space, heading to establish humanity's first colony beyond Earth's solar system. The Voric Dominion claimed it was an accident. A military training exercise gone wrong. They offered formal apologies and reparations according to the Codex. Gold, resources, technology, everything by the rules. Admiral Hyun-Soo Choi, commander of Earth's defense fleet, received the Voric message. He was an old man, with gray hair and scars from Earth's wars. He had fought in battles where entire cities burned, where millions died, where the only rule was survival. He read the apology 3 times. Then he sent his response to the Voric Dominion. It was short, only 7 words. "We don't accept reparations. We accept surrender." The Voric Dominion laughed at Admiral Choi's response. General Krathmore himself called it the joke of a primitive species. "They demand our surrender?" he told his officers. "These humans who just learned to leave their planet? We will teach them humility." 1 week later, the Voric formally declared war on humanity. They followed every rule in the Codex. They announced the declaration publicly. They specified the battle zone near a human mining outpost. They even gave Earth 3 days to prepare their forces. The Galactic Council watched with interest. Most species expected humanity to lose quickly. The Voric had thousands of warships. Humanity had less than 100. The Voric had fought wars for centuries. Humanity was new to space combat. It should have been simple. On the morning of the battle, Krathmore led his fleet to the designated zone. 200 Voric ships arrived in perfect formation. Their weapons powered up. Their shields activated. Everything by the rules, clean, organized, professional. They waited for the human fleet to arrive. Minutes passed, then hours. No human ships appeared. Krathmore grew impatient. "Where are they? Are they hiding like cowards?" Then the first mine exploded. Humans had filled the entire battle zone with improvised nuclear devices. Hundreds of them. They floated in space like seeds, invisible to Vorik sensors until they activated. 37 Vorik ships died in the first 5 minutes. Krathmor's own flagship lost its engines. What is this? Krathmor roared.
This is not honorable combat. This violates the Codex.
High Arbiter Velnar contacted Admiral Choi immediately. The conversation was broadcast across the galaxy. Velnar's voice trembled with shock. Admiral, you have violated the Codex of civilized warfare. The use of mines without warning is forbidden. The use of nuclear weapons in space combat is forbidden. We demand you cease this barbaric behavior. Choi's response was cold. We never signed your codex, we never agreed to your rules. You invited us to your galaxy, but you never asked if we would play your games. We won't. But this is not war, Velnar said. This is slaughter. No, Choi said quietly. This is war, real war. You've just forgotten what it looks like. The Vorik fleet retreated, but their problems had just begun. Sergeant Borahan and her ghost company had other plans. While the galaxy focused on the space battle, Bora led small teams deep into Vorik territory. They did not fight large battles. They fought dirty. They sabotaged supply ships. They poisoned food stores. They destroyed communication hubs. They killed Vorik officers in their sleep. The Vorik called it terrorism. Bora called it asymmetric warfare. On Earth, soldiers had been doing this for thousands of years. Commander Jiwoo Park coordinated the broader strategy from her command ship. She studied the Vorik carefully. They were strong but predictable. They always followed the same patterns. They announced their movements. They took breaks for negotiations. They treated war like a sport with rules and referees. Jiwoo threw out the rule book. Human ships did not fight in designated zones. They attacked wherever Vorik forces gathered. They hit supply lines. They destroyed shipyards. They targeted communication centers. Nothing was off limits. If it helped the Vorik war effort, it became a target. The Vorik tried to adapt, but they could not. Their entire military culture was built on honor and rules. When humans broke those rules, the Vorik did not know how to respond. They kept trying to fight the war they understood, while humanity fought the war they needed. Dr. Tae-hyun Kim watched all of this from Earth with growing horror. He had become humanity's chief weapons researcher, but he hated the job. Every day, military officers asked him to create worse and worse things. Poisons, diseases, weapons that would make the Vorik suffer. I'm a scientist, not a murderer, he told Admiral Choi during one meeting. Choi looked tired, old. I know, but they killed 2,000 of our people. If we don't fight this way, they'll kill millions more. I need you to do this, Tae-hyun. I need weapons that will make them stop. Tae-hyun worked in his lab for 3 weeks. He created a biological agent that targeted Vorik DNA specifically. It would not kill them, but it would make them sick. Very sick, unable to fight, unable to work. The disease would spread through their military like fire. When he finished, he stared at the vial in his hand. It was small, clear, harmless looking, but it contained enough pain for millions of Vorik soldiers. Tae-hyun had sworn an oath as a doctor to do no harm. Now he had created the ultimate harm. He sent it to the military anyway. The disease spread through Vorik forces within a month. Their soldiers fell sick by the thousands. Their ships floated dead in space, crews too ill to function. Hospitals overflowed. Panic spread. The Galactic Council emergency session was chaos. Species shouted at each other. Some demanded humanity be expelled. Others called for military intervention. Velnar tried to maintain order, but even he seemed shaken. The humans have used biological weapons, one ambassador screamed. This is the worst violation of the Codex in our history. They never signed the Codex, another pointed out quietly. Velnar contacted Admiral Choi again. This time his voice was harder, colder. You are destroying everything we have built. 3,000 years of civilized warfare, and you tear it down in months. Why? Choi leaned forward. Because your civilization was built by species who never faced extinction. You evolved on safe worlds. You never had to become monsters to survive. Earth was different. We had predators. We had diseases. We had ice ages and droughts and disasters. We learned to fight without rules because rules meant death. So you bring that savagery here? Velnar asked. We bring survival. The Vorik killed our people. They thought it would be easy. Because we're new. They were wrong. Now they pay the price, and what price will you pay? Velnar asked quietly. What will you become? Choi had no answer to that. The psychological warfare was almost worse than the physical attacks. Human ships broadcast recordings of Vorik screams on repeat. They sent drones carrying dead Vorik soldiers back to Vorik worlds. The messages attached were simple, brutal. Send more. Vorik morale collapsed. Soldiers deserted. Officers refused orders. Some Vorik killed themselves rather than face human forces. It was something their species had never experienced before. Suicide. The ultimate dishonor. But humans had broken something fundamental in their enemy's spirit. General Krathmore sat alone in his quarters aboard his damaged flagship. He reviewed battle reports with growing despair. His military was falling apart. Not because humans were stronger, not because they had better technology, but because they fought without honor, without limits. Without mercy, he realized something terrible. Humans did not see the Vorik as worthy opponents. They saw them as threats to be eliminated by any means necessary. In human thinking, there were no rules in survival, only winners and losers, living and dead. Krathmore opened a secure channel to Velnar. The Vorik Dominion requests formal surrender terms. The council chamber fell silent. The Vorik were the galaxy's premier military power. They had never surrendered to anyone in their 1,000-year history. Now they surrendered to a species that had been in space for less than a year. Admiral Choi's terms were harsh but not cruel. The Vorik would pay reparations. They would withdraw from several border systems. Most importantly, they would publicly acknowledge that humanity had won the war. The surrender ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Krathmore signed the documents with shaking hands. He looked like a broken old creature. Later that night, news came that shocked everyone. Krathmore had been found dead in his quarters. Suicide. The first in recorded Vorik history. Ambassador Shiara met with Jiwoo after the ceremony. The gentle alien looked frightened. Do you understand what you've done? You've shattered everything the Council believed about war, about civilization, about progress. Species across the galaxy are terrified. Jiwoo felt empty, hollow. We did what we had to do. Maybe, Shiara said. But now they see you as monsters. And monsters must be destroyed, she was right. Within days, 10 species formed a coalition. Their goal was simple. Contain the human threat, force them to follow the Codex, or eliminate them entirely. The Galactic Council declared humanity a danger to civilized space. War was coming again. But this time, it would not be against one species. It would be against half the galaxy. The Coalition fleet arrived at Earth's solar system with overwhelming force. 500 warships from 10 different species. They surrounded the system like a closing fist. Their message was clear. Surrender or die. Admiral Choi stood on the bridge of his flagship and studied the tactical display. Red dots everywhere. So many enemy ships that the screen looked like it had a disease. His own forces were pathetically small in comparison. 30 ships. That was all Earth had left after the war with the Vorik. His second officer, a young woman named Hee-Jin, looked scared. Sir, what do we do? We can't fight that many ships. Choi smiled grimly. You're right. We can't fight them here, so we don't. Instead of defending Earth, the human fleet scattered. Ships jumped to light speed in all directions. The Coalition expected a desperate last stand. What they got was an empty solar system and confused silence. Then reports started coming in. Human ships had appeared at Coalition homeworlds. Not to fight fleets, to attack planets directly. Shipyards burned. Orbital stations exploded. Supply depots were destroyed. Humanity had turned the war inside out. The Coalition had brought war to Earth's doorstep. Now Earth brought war to theirs. Commander Jiwoo Park led one of these strike groups. She hated what she was doing. Hated herself for ordering it. But she kept going because someone had to. Because if she stopped, humanity would die. Her target was an agricultural world, millions of acres of crops that fed Coalition forces. Jiwoo's orders were simple. Destroy it, all of it. Turn food into ashes and create a refugee crisis that would overwhelm Coalition logistics. This is wrong, her weapons officer said quietly. Those farms feed civilians, Jiwoo closed her eyes. I know. Fire anyway. Orbital bombardment turned green fields into burning wastelands. Jiwoo watched it happen and felt something inside her break. She had become what she feared. A monster who killed without hesitation. But Earth needed monsters now. Needed people willing to do terrible things so others could survive. That night she dreamed of the burning fields. of all the people who would starve because of her orders. She woke up screaming. Meanwhile, Sergeant Borahan was teaching other species how to fight like humans. A small alien species called the Tarask had contacted Earth secretly. Their neighbors were trying to conquer them. The Council could not help fast enough. Would humanity teach them to survive? Bora and her ghost company arrived at the Tarask homeworld expecting to find weak aliens who needed protection. Instead, they found desperate survivors ready to do anything. The Tarask were small, but they were not stupid. They learned quickly. Forget honor, Bora told them. Forget fair fights. Your enemy wants to kill you, so you kill them first. You hit them where they're weak. You attack at night. You use traps and tricks and lies. There are no rules except winning. The Tarask followed her advice. Within weeks, their larger enemies were retreating. The Tarask used guerrilla tactics. They poisoned water supplies. They sabotaged equipment. They ambushed patrols. Their enemies called them savages. The Tarask called it survival. News of the Tarask victory spread across the galaxy. Other small species started asking questions. Started wondering if the old ways of fighting were really the best ways. The Codex had never protected them. Maybe it was time to try something new. On Earth, Dr. Tae-hyun Kim worked in his laboratory and tried not to think about what his weapons were doing. Every day brought new requests. Make the disease more contagious. Create something that causes more pain. Design weapons that would terrify the enemy into surrender. He had created a dozen different bioweapons now, each one worse than the last. He told himself it was necessary. Told himself he was saving human lives. But late at night, alone in his lab, he knew the truth. He was becoming a monster. One morning, Admiral Choi called him with a new request. The worst one yet. We need a doomsday weapon, Choi said. Something we can threaten to use if they don't back down. Tae-hyun felt sick. What kind of doomsday weapon? Something that can destroy entire planets. Something they know we'll use if Earth falls. If we're going to die, we'll take them with us. That's insane, Tae-hyun said. We'd be threatening billions of innocent lives. Yes, Choi said simply. But it might make them stop. It's called the Samson option. If we fall, everyone falls. Mutually assured destruction. It kept Earth from nuclear war for over a century. Tae-hyun worked for 3 months. He created devices that could be hidden on coalition worlds. Small, undetectable. But if activated, they would release enough radiation to make entire planets uninhabitable for centuries. He seeded hundreds of them throughout coalition space, programmed to activate automatically if Earth was destroyed. When he finished, he sent his resignation to Admiral Choi. He could not do this anymore. Could not create weapons of ultimate horror. He had crossed too many lines already. Choi announced the Samson option publicly. The galaxy reacted with shock and outrage. High Arbiter Velnar called it madness. You would murder billions to save yourselves? If necessary, Choi replied. You brought this war to us. You tried to destroy us because we wouldn't follow your rules. Now you know the cost. Attack Earth and dozens of your worlds die with us. Is that what you want? The coalition fractured. Some species wanted to back down. The risk was too great. Others wanted to call the bluff. Surely humans would not actually do it. Surely they were not that insane. But looking at Earth's history, looking at what humans had already done, many species wondered if it was really a bluff at all. Ambassador Shiara secretly left the coalition. She could not be part of this anymore. Her people, the Luminari, had always valued peace and understanding, but the Council had become something she did not recognize. Something driven by fear and pride rather than wisdom. She traveled to Earth and requested asylum. When she met with Admiral Choi, she asked him the question that haunted her. Are you really willing to destroy the galaxy to save yourselves? Choi looked old, tired. I hope I never have to find out. A war scholar named Drenox published a controversial study. He was from a species known for documenting history without bias. His report was titled The Human Paradox: Why Civilized War Cannot Defeat Uncivilized Combatants. In it, he argued that the Codex was fundamentally flawed. It assumed all species valued honor more than survival. It assumed everyone would rather lose with dignity than win with shame. Humans had no such assumption. They had learned over millions of years that survival was the only thing that mattered. Everything else was negotiable. The report caused massive debate across the galaxy. Many species called it defeatist, dangerous, but others read it and started to understand. Humanity was not breaking the rules to be cruel. They were breaking the rules because they came from a world where rules meant death. The war dragged on for 3 more years. Neither side could win decisively. The coalition had numbers but could not protect their supply lines or their homeworlds. Humanity had desperation, but could not defeat the coalition's combined fleets in direct battle. Casualties mounted on both sides. Entire populations suffered. Refugee crises overwhelmed systems. The galaxy, which had known peace for 3,000 years, was tearing itself apart. Commander Jiwoo Park sat in her quarters after another successful raid. Successful. That was the word they used. Not horrifying. Not monstrous. Successful. She had destroyed another coalition facility. Killed another few hundred enemy soldiers. She looked at her reflection in the dark window. The woman staring back looked hollow. Empty. Jiwoo barely recognized herself anymore. Somewhere along the way, she had stopped being a soldier and become something else. Something the galaxy feared. Her communication device buzzed. A message from Admiral Choi. Brief and cryptic. "We need to talk. It's time to end this." Jiwoo read the message 3 times. End it how? They could not win. But they also could not lose. They were trapped in a war that would consume the entire galaxy if it continued. Something had to change. Someone had to be brave enough to stop the madness. The war had changed everything. Not just the galaxy, but the people fighting it. Admiral Choi looked at himself in the mirror each morning and saw a stranger. A man who had ordered the deaths of millions. A man who slept 3 hours a night because nightmares filled the rest. On Earth, a political faction was growing stronger. They called themselves the Peace Coalition. Their message was simple. Choi and his officers had gone too far. They had turned humanity into the monsters the galaxy feared. It was time to stop. Time to surrender and accept whatever terms the Council offered. The Peace Coalition attempted a coup. It failed, but barely. Army units loyal to Choi arrested the conspirators before they could seize control. But the attempt revealed something terrifying. Humanity itself was fracturing. Even if they won the war, they might lose themselves. Dr. Tae-hyun Kim watched the news reports and felt relief mixed with guilt. Part of him had hoped the coup would succeed, hoped someone would stop the madness he had helped create. But it failed and the war continued. He was done. Completely done. He had resigned, but resignation was not enough. Tae-hyun made a public statement. He confessed everything he had created. Every weapon. Every bioweapon. Every tool of horror. He told the galaxy exactly what humanity had become. "We are becoming what we feared," he said into the cameras. "I helped make weapons that will haunt me forever. I cannot undo what I've done, but I can refuse to do more. The question we must ask is not can we win, but what will we become if we do?" The confession went viral across human space. Some called Tae-hyun a traitor, others called him a hero, but everyone understood his message. Victory was meaningless if it cost your soul. Commander Jiwoo Park received a coded message. Coalition special forces were planning to assassinate her. Intelligence indicated they would strike within 48 hours. She was the symbol of human ruthlessness. Kill her, and maybe human morale would collapse. Sergeant Borahan took charge of security personally. "They want you dead? Let them try. My team hasn't lost a principal yet." The assassins came at night. 12 elite coalition soldiers, the best of the best. They infiltrated the human base through weaknesses in the defenses. They moved like ghosts, silent, deadly, professional. Bora's team was waiting, not at the expected defense points, not following standard procedures. They hit the assassins from angles no one anticipated, used tactics that violated every rule of professional military engagement. Within 10 minutes, all 12 assassins were dead. Jiwoo stood over the bodies afterward, young aliens who would never go home, who had died trying to kill her. She felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, just emptiness. She had become so numb to death that it barely registered anymore. "Are you all right?" Bora asked. "No," Jiwoo said honestly. "I don't think I'll ever be all right again." High Arbiter Velnar was desperate. The coalition was falling apart. Some species wanted to continue the war. Others wanted peace at any cost. 3 had already withdrawn from the coalition entirely, unwilling to participate in what they saw as mutual destruction. Velnar made a decision that shocked everyone. He contacted Admiral Choi directly, not through official channels, not with other council members present. Just the two of them. Leader to leader. I want to debate you, Velnar said. Publicly, broadcast across the galaxy, the two of us discussing the fundamental question. What is the true nature of war? Choi was surprised but agreed. The debate was scheduled for 1 week later. Billions of beings across thousands of worlds tuned in to watch. Two leaders. Two philosophies. One question, Velnar spoke first. War can be civilized, it must be. Without rules we become animals. The Codex exists to preserve our dignity even in conflict. Humans have rejected this. They fight like savages. They use tactics that are beneath thinking beings. This is wrong. Choi's response was quiet but firm. The Codex is a luxury. It only works when everyone agrees that losing with honor is better than winning with shame. But what if losing means extinction? What if the enemy does not care about your honor? Earth taught us that survival comes first. Always. Your rules are beautiful in theory, but they were created by species who never faced real existential threats. So you justify atrocity by calling it survival? Velnar asked. I justify nothing, Choi said. I simply do what is necessary. You see war as a contest. We see it as a fight for existence. These are fundamentally different things. The debate continued for 3 hours. Neither side yielded. Neither side convinced the other. But billions of viewers began to understand something important. Both leaders believed they were right. Both were trying to protect their people. The conflict was not about good versus evil. It was about different understandings of survival itself. War scholar Drenox was watching the debate from his study. As it ended, he began writing furiously. He had discovered something important, something that changed everything. He had been researching the history of the Codex, going back thousands of years, and he found the truth. The Codex had not been created from enlightenment or moral progress. It had been imposed by the first dominant species to reach space. They created the rules to make sure no other species could challenge them using unrestricted warfare. The Codex was not about civilization. It was about control, about maintaining power structures. The galaxy had believed a beautiful lie for 3,000 years. Drenox published his findings immediately. The report spread through the galaxy like fire. Species that had always followed the Codex without question suddenly had doubts. Had they been living under a system designed to keep them weak? The Tarask, who had learned human warfare from Sergeant Bo-Rahan, became a test case. Other species watched them carefully. Would they become monsters like humans? Would they lose their civilization? But something interesting happened. The Tarask adapted human tactics without losing themselves. They fought dirty when necessary but showed mercy when possible. They found a middle path between Codex warfare and total war. They proved that learning from humanity did not mean becoming human. More species started asking for human military advisors. Not to conquer others, to survive. To learn how to fight without the Codex's restrictions. Bora and her ghost company found themselves teaching tactics across the galaxy. Within the coalition, 3 more species withdrew. They saw the writing on the wall. The Codex was dying. A new era was beginning. Better to adapt now than be left behind. High Arbiter Velnar watched his life's work crumble. Everything he believed in was being questioned. The council he led was fracturing. The peace he had maintained was gone. And somehow a species that had been in space for less than 5 years had caused it all. But Velnar was not stupid. He was a politician who had led the council for decades. He understood when to hold firm and when to adapt. And he realized something crucial. Humanity had not destroyed civilization. They had revealed that the old civilization was already broken. Maybe it was time for something new, something that acknowledged different species had different needs, something more honest than the beautiful lie of the Codex. Velnar sent a private message to Commander Jiwoo Park, not to Admiral Choi, not to Earth's government, to her personally. The message was simple but shocking. Meet me. Alone. On the abandoned station at coordinates I will send separately. No weapons, no guards, no codex, no rules. Just 2 people trying to end this madness. Will you come? Jiwoo read the message 3 times. It could be a trap. Probably was a trap. Velnar might be working with hardliners to capture or kill her. Meeting him alone would be suicide. But as she thought about it, she realized something. If there was any chance of ending this war, someone had to take a risk. Someone had to be brave enough to trust when trust seemed impossible. She sent her reply. 1 word, yes. The abandoned station floated in empty space between territories. It had been a research facility once before the war. Now it was just a hollow shell, forgotten by both sides. Commander Jiwoo Park's small ship docked carefully. Her hands were shaking. She had told no one where she was going. If this was a trap, no one would rescue her. If she died here, humanity would never know what happened. But something in Velnar's message had felt genuine, desperate, like a man reaching out in the dark hoping someone would grab his hand. Inside the station, emergency lights cast everything in dim red. Jiwoo walked through empty corridors, her footsteps echoing. She carried no weapons, as promised, though that felt stupid now. High Arbiter Velnar waited in what had been the station's observation deck. The liquid-like alien stood alone, looking out at the stars. He turned when Jiwoo entered. "You came. I was not certain you would. I almost didn't," Jiwoo admitted. "This could be a trap." "It could be," Velnar agreed. "But it is not. I came alone as I promised. No guards, no weapons. Just an old leader who is tired of war." They sat across from each other. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Velnar broke the silence. "I have led the council for 37 years. In that time, I believed I was maintaining peace, preserving civilization. But your species showed me something I did not want to see." "What's that?" Jiwoo asked. "The Codex was never about morality. It was about control. The strong created rules to keep the weak from rising. We called it civilization, but it was just another form of dominance. Your people refused to accept those rules, and it terrified us. Not because you are savage, because you revealed our hypocrisy." Jiwoo studied the alien carefully. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want to end this war." "Not with surrender, not with victory, with understanding. We must find a new way forward. But I cannot do it alone. The council will not listen to me anymore. I need someone from your side who understands the cost of what we have done." "I'm just a soldier," Jiwoo said quietly. "I follow orders." "No," Velnar said. "You are the symbol of human resistance. When you speak, your people listen. When you act, the galaxy notices. You have more power than you realize." Jiwoo laughed bitterly. "I have the power to order deaths, to destroy worlds, to make people afraid. Is that what you mean?" "Yes," Velnar said simply, "but also the power to stop, to choose a different path. That is the hardest power of all to use." They talked for hours, about the war, about their people, about the mistakes both sides had made. Jiwoo found herself admitting things she had never told anyone. The nightmares, the guilt, the feeling that she had become a monster to fight monsters. Velnar shared his own doubts. His fear that everything he had built was crumbling. His realization that the peace he maintained had only worked because no one challenged it. His growing understanding that humanity was not the problem, but the symptom of a deeper issue. Then alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed throughout the station. Jiwoo and Velnar both stood confused and alarmed. "What is that?" Jiwoo demanded. Velnar checked a nearby console, his liquid body rippling with distress. "No, this cannot be. My fleet is moving toward Earth, a full assault." "I gave no such orders." Jiwoo pulled up her own communications. Her blood ran cold. "The Samson option has been activated. Someone triggered the doomsday devices. Admiral Choi did not authorize this." They stared at each other in horror. Both leaders had been betrayed. Hardliners on both sides had decided to end the war their own way. Total victory or total destruction, nothing in between. "How long until the fleet reaches Earth?" Velnar asked. 3 hours. "And the doomsday devices?" 48 hours after Earth falls, they activate automatically." Velnar made a sound like waves crashing. "Then we have less than 2 days to save the galaxy." They moved quickly. Jiwoo contacted Admiral Choi while Velnar reached out to Ambassador Shiara, who had taken refuge on Earth. Together they crafted a desperate plan. A joint broadcast, both leaders together, revealing the truth about the betrayals. The transmission went out across all channels. Jiwoo and Velnar stood side by side. "We are Commander Park and High Arbiter Velnar," Jiwoo began. "We meet here as proof that this war can end. But hardliners on both sides have betrayed us. They seek to destroy everything rather than accept peace," Velnar continued. "A coalition fleet moves toward Earth without my authorization. Human doomsday weapons have been activated without approval. If these actions continue, both our species will die. Every world will burn. This is not war. This is suicide." Jiwoo looked directly into the camera. "We are staying here at this station. together. If your fleets want to continue this war, they will have to kill their own leaders first. We refuse to be part of this madness anymore. It was a bluff, a desperate gamble, but it worked. Admiral Choi ordered all human forces to stand down. He sent Sergeant Borahan and her ghost company to physically disable the Samson option devices before they could activate. Bora worked without sleep for 36 hours, racing against time. On the coalition side, Ambassador Shiara rallied moderate species. They confronted the hardliners publicly. When the attacking fleet refused to turn back, Shiara convinced 3 other species to physically block their path. No shots were fired, but the message was clear. The war was over. The hardliners were arrested on both sides. Some went quietly. Others had to be taken by force. But within a week, the shooting stopped. After 5 years of war, silence finally fell across the galaxy. The negotiations took months. Humanity and the Council worked to create something new, not the old codex, which everyone now understood had been flawed from the start. Something that acknowledged different species had different needs, different histories, different ways of survival. The new framework had rules, but they were pragmatic rather than idealistic. Some species could choose to follow strict codes of honor. Others could use more aggressive tactics. Both were accepted as valid approaches. The key was transparency. Everyone had to declare their methods publicly. Not everyone was happy. Some species called the new system too lenient. Others called it too restrictive. But it was better than the alternative. Better than war. Admiral Hyunsu Choi resigned. He could not live with what he had done. The deaths he had ordered. The choices he had made. He spent his remaining years at a quiet monastery, trying to find peace with ghosts that would never leave him. Dr. Tae Hyun Kim returned to research, but not weapons. He focused on medicine, on healing rather than harming. He never forgot what he had created, but he spent the rest of his life trying to balance the scales. Sergeant Bora Han retired from military service. She tried to go back to normal life, but the ghosts followed her too. So she started a support group for veterans, both human and alien, people who had seen too much, done too much. They helped each other carry the weight. Commander Jiwoo Park became humanity's first ambassador to the Reformed Council. It was ironic. The woman who had been the symbol of human warfare became the symbol of human diplomacy. She accepted the position because someone who understood the cost of war needed to work for peace. 5 years after the war ended, Jiwoo attended a memorial ceremony. It honored all who had died on both sides, humans and aliens together. Enemies who had killed each other now remembered equally. Jiwoo placed a plaque at the memorial. It had a single inscription, simple words that carried the weight of everything they had learned. They called it hell. We called it survival. May we never need it again. A young human cadet approached her after the ceremony. He looked fresh, eager, untouched by war. Ambassador Park, can I ask you something? Of course. Did humanity do the right thing? In the war, I mean. Were we justified? Jiwoo looked at the memorial. At all those names, human and alien, dead because of choices she and others had made. We did what was necessary, she said slowly. That's not the same as right. Necessary means you had no other choice. Right means you'd make the same choice again without regret. So which was it? The cadet asked. Jiwoo smiled sadly. Necessary. And the fact that I know the difference, that I carry the weight of that distinction, is what keeps us human. The day we stop questioning our choices is the day we actually become the monsters they feared. The galaxy had not achieved perfect peace. War still happened. But species now understood something crucial. War was not a game, not a contest with rules and referees. It was the last resort of survival, something to be avoided whenever possible, but fought without hesitation when necessary. Humanity had taught the galaxy to fear again, but more importantly, they had taught the galaxy to be honest about what war really meant. The beautiful lies were gone. In their place was ugly truth. And perhaps that truth, however hard to accept, was what real civilization needed. Jiwoo walked away from the memorial. Behind her, the sun set on another day of peace. How long that peace would last, no one knew. But for now, it was enough. The galaxy had learned its lesson. They believed they understood war. Then humanity showed them hell. And in surviving that hell, perhaps both sides had finally learned what war really was. Not glory, not honor, not a game. Just the terrible price species pay when survival demands they become something they never wanted to be.